Democrats are condemning the Trump Justice Department for what they call an egregious abuse of power. CBS News has confirmed in 2017 and again in 2018, the Department of Justice subpoenaed the personal metadata of at least a dozen people tied to the House Intelligence Committee. The investigation targeted at least two committee members, including Congressman Adam Schiff and Representative Eric Swalwell. Former Attorney General Jeff Sessions was in charge of the early stages of the investigation. He was looking into leaks of classified information about communication between the Trump administration and Russia. The New York Times reports the subpoenas found no ties between the House Intelligence Committee and the leaks. For more on this, I want to bring in Rebecca Roiphe. She is a CBS News legal contributor and former Manhattan prosecutor. Rebecca, welcome. It's great to see you. You know, on the surface, this appears very political, considering what the Justice Department was supposedly investigating. Is it common to see the Justice Department subpoena metadata from members of Congress? And what steps would need to be taken in order for that to happen?
Leak investigations are not unusual, so that part of this is not unusual. What is unusual is, I think, the scope, depth, and extent of this particular investigation, and that, I think, does raise serious red flags. So, you know, the predication to start an investigation, what the prosecutors would need to start sending out subpoenas is really quite low. They just need to have reason to believe that they'll find evidence on the other end. So that part of this is not something that should be alarming. But the fact that this started under Attorney General Jeff Sessions. There were a bunch of people who thought that there was nothing there, apparently, and they should close it. And then it was kind of re-upped by Attorney General Barr with this new energy and strangely, you know, shifted to one of his own picked people, which is just not the way these things are normally done. So all of those things, I think, should give us pause and concern and lead to, you know, an investigation. We need to get the right people on it, which is the Inspector General, and get to the bottom of it.
And give us a sense of the scope of this investigation. I mean, we understand it involved family members of Congress, including a minor. You know, on what grounds did the Trump Justice Department justify taking this type of action? Like you said, the bar is pretty low, you know, to sort of begin an investigation, but there must have been something there to even start it.
Well, right. That's the whole thing, and that's why you really want an investigation into this. So first of all, I think it's really important to draw a distinction here. This is not, nobody is listening in on conversations. This is metadata, which means essentially we're figuring out who called who when, and using that information to see if there might be enough to, you know, open up a real investigation with, you know, court orders and so forth. So that's why the requirement, the predication, what they need to start it is fairly low, because the intrusion into privacy, you know, I mean, it's not good. You don't want to have somebody figuring all that stuff out about you, but it's not so bad. So that's why what the government needs is low. But when I say that, it doesn't mean that government officials aren't supposed to exercise their discretion with caution. And because this is, you know, a high-profile investigation into members of a co-equal branch, you would need to have had approval all the way up to the top of the Department of Justice. So this is not something that could have just happened, you know, off the cuff because some, you know, low-down employee thought this might be fun. You know, this is really a serious investigation, would have had to have required sign-off from the very top and ought not to have been done lightly. And that is why, you know, we really have to be careful. The concern here is that, you know, this question of whether or not the Department of Justice was being weaponized as a political tool against the adversaries of the president. Now, there's no proof of that, but there's certainly enough indication to, as I said, throw up massive red flags and lead to a serious investigation.
And what about the piece of that involving the minor? Does that necessitate a higher bar of, you know, of implied wrongdoing? I mean, aren't minors given more protections in cases like this?
Well, I mean, for sure, certainly, it would have required a great deal more of discretion, before doing that. I, think as a general matter, it's rarely done. And, again, this is one of those things where we do leave a great deal of discretion to federal investigators and federal prosecutors and assume that they aren't going to abuse that discretion. So I would think that whoever is looking into this ought to look very carefully into that decision as well as others.
And, Rebecca, as you pointed out, it started under Jeff Sessions, but, William Barr revived the leak investigations after he took office. Could any of the Trump administration officials face any possible legal repercussions or other types of repercussions if the probe is deemed to have been a purely political move?
Well, certainly there could be repercussions. There could be sanctions, and definitely, fundamentally, you could think about somebody's law license being on the line. Whether there would be any criminal charges, well, there would have to have been, obviously some kind of a crime here, and that seems, it seems premature to assume that was what was going on. And I do think it's important to exercise caution here because, of course, Bill Barr, launched into this job with this sense that the Russia investigation itself was started as a political hit job against the president, and when he was campaigning for the presidency, and without proof, he went forward. And I think, we really all have to sit back and say, of course, we need to police the Department of Justice, make sure that it hasn't become politicized, but we need to do it in the proper way, which means we need to get the least likely to be the least likely politically motivated actor to come in here and do a real fact investigation to get to the bottom of this. Because if there was criminal activity or if there was wrongdoing, then we want to make sure that we have the actual facts, and then we can pursue those people with assurance that, this is not itself just a vendetta that's going to go back and forth forever.
All right. Well, Rebecca Roiphe, thank you so much for joining us. As always, happy Friday and have a great weekend.